Hello, good day to everyone. And I just hopped on to try lives again and practice not losing most of my chin in the camera like I did in the last time I did this. And I really enjoyed talking about a lot of things. And I got excited thinking about talking about moss. And let me adjust this again. I know I'm looking off to the side quite a lot. We'll see how this goes. And moss has been something that I've always felt lucky that I got a chance to see a lot of. And I really enjoy it. It is a really neat plant. And maybe it's not something that everybody has the same chance to see as I did. I've lived in a lot of different places, and some of them have had a lot of moss, and it's really beautiful. And the other thing that's neat about it is the deeper you look, the more interesting it gets to me. And so I'll talk a little bit about some pictures that I found on the internet. I have hopefully done this right where I've posted any link to any of these pictures that I'm using in the chat so anyone can go check the source. And I haven't vetted that the sources say 100% accurate things, but they looked pretty legitimate at first glance. So let me share a couple of pictures, and these are just oh, that didn't work. These are just on a Libre Office Impress slideshow. So I believe I remember from last time how to share my screen, but we'll see. Ooh, I think so. Here we go. Yes, worked a lot faster than last time. Right, so here is a picture close up of moss. And this one looks like it's growing on a rock in the picture that I got off the internet. And I love this picture. It's got a lot of different colors and it's really beautiful. When one of the places that I lived, I was able to walk on moss and it just feels so nice on your feet. And there's something so deep breath and calm about moss. And what's interesting is that I've also lived near the Cascade Mountains. And I just found a picture to represent something that I've thought for a long time, which is that when you're looking at the foothills of the Cascades, this is Mount Rainier, for example, these are pretty big trees making up what looks to me like moss. Like I loved how much the forest would even look like a soft bed when you looked at it from a distance. Something nice that you could step on, even though that's not really what this is. It's nice to be in it. And I think it's beautiful. And for some reason to me, the forest of trees and the moss always seem very connected in my mind. Kids always probably do this, but I know I do, where I connect somewhat related things together and they're very strongly attached. One of the things that I thought was really neat when I looked into moss life cycle is that moss is considered, by those who study it, a very old organism. It apparently is one of the ancients of the planet. And the timeline I've seen estimated recently is about 450 million years ago, it came out of the ocean. And so I don't know because I'm not an expert, but I wonder if there is some remnants of ocean vasculature in here. I mean, when any plant or animal or anything is in the water, there's a whole different system that needs to transport things around and to live. There's some overlap with what a land animal or plant needs, or fungus or anything, but the ocean takes care of a lot of things in a way that will be different if something's moving around in the air. And one of the things I read about moss is that it cannot grow all that tall because water transport in moss is different than it would be, say, in the trees that I showed in that picture. There were a lot of different plants that are more recent, came into the earth more recently. So moss, as everyone who's seen it knows, tends to be pretty subtle unless you're looking at it closely. It tends to be low down or small height. So if it's growing on something tall, then it can be at eye level. But otherwise, it's on the rocks, it's on the dirt, low down, doesn't get up high unless it's growing on something high. And one of the things that I'll mention is that the way that it life cycles is really interesting. There are so many different ways that life cycles can happen. And moss has spores rather than seeds, which is something a lot of people might already know the difference between. But one of the things I'll say is that spores tend to be tiny compared to seeds. And I associate them very commonly with mushrooms and fungus, and not as much with green growing things that look like they're doing photosynthesis. And spores can be in green leafy things other than moss. Moss is one of the things, though, that has spores, and that is different than a seed. And not just in size. A spore is half of the genetic material of a seed. So a seed, we know, can be the combination of an egg and a sperm from flowers. A spore it could be asexual. A spore could be that it needs to find something else to fuse with, or that something that's going to grow from it didn't have an egg and a sperm. It just was half of the genetic material, which is really interesting to me. And again, like I said, it's tiny. It's a different type of, getting carried in the air than a seed. And one of the things that I didn't realize until I was reading about moss long ago was that I've seen moss have little structures on them, and I didn't know what for, but I usually didn't even notice that. If you look closely at moss, sometimes there are none of these sporophytes. Sometimes it will just be more similar to the early picture I showed. I'll bring that up again. I don't see any obvious sporophytes in the foreground here, but sometimes you will see in the third picture, you can see little structures coming out of moss. And if you zoom in closely when you're looking at this, these are really neat to look at and get down and examine, or if you're looking to find moss at eye level, to look at really closely and realize that these are spore releasing and little sources of new moss packets that are going out. And so you can look up more details on the genetic material part of that, or how they get carried, and what grows out of what, and how sexual and asexual reproduction happen. And I, like I said, have thrown several links into hopefully the description here. One of the ones that I thought was neat was the PBS one. And it talks about a lot of different aspects of moss. The moss dance is really short. That's just a little, I think, sped up video probably of moss moving. The other thing I wanted to mention really quickly is that ferns also have spores, and they are a bit of a different life cycle as well from most other plants. And they are also thought to be kind of ancients. And so they probably have been on the planet for a very long time. And I can stop sharing this, and I could actually pull out and look for a picture of the spores on a fern. And I think that that would be kind of fun to do. So let's type in. Oh, look, I'm putting off my chin again. Oh, well, I guess if I slump down in my chair, that's what's going to happen. That's all right. So basically, pictures of ferns. Go to images and see what we get. All right, I've pulled some up, so I'll just go ahead and share and show that. There we go. All right, so you can see different fern pictures here, and I will point out that there's lots of different kinds of ferns. I love ferns as well, which is not too surprising. I think there's probably some crossover between people who like moss and people who like ferns. And the other thing I was going to mention about moss that I think would apply to ferns is that they really tend to like water. And moss can absorb a huge amount of water. I don't know how much ferns can absorb, but if you ever watch moss that looks brown and almost dead come back to life because water gets poured on it, it's magic. And some of the mosses that can really change a forest can absorb and then release enormous amounts of water slowly, which really changes the quality of the air, of course. So anyway, back to spores really fast. I'll go ahead and hop off soon. I believe, if I'm looking at this correctly, that this picture of a fern has little spore areas on the back of these leaves. You can see this kind of brownish little fuzzy areas. And I don't know how far you need to zoom in to tell what they are. But I will say, I don't want to show a video here while I'm talking. I think that'd be kind of dull. But I do think it is really fun to search for people who've done good zoomed in time-lapse photography to watch spore release, both for ferns and moss, because it is so interesting and so weird sometimes. And just one of those unexpected, this is happening in plain sight, but it's a bit tiny. And so I recommend either looking at moss around you if you're interested, or finding some good videos. And if anyone wanted to comment that they found a good video, I would love to see more of them myself. So feel free to link videos if you see this and want to share them with anyone, including me. And I would love it. Thank you. So thanks to anyone who watches this. And I will go ahead and stop sharing for now. But this is a good practice for sharing topics that are interesting and just enjoying it. This is such a fun one.